Welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at the Battle of Karbala, Iraq. It's interesting actually. Yeah. One of the main reasons being that it's sort of the last battle. I sort of thought, well, what's after this? And the Battle of Baghdad's next, and it seems to be pretty much it. So we've got almost the whole of the 2003 war. I'm pretty sure there are actually quite a few special operations, but they're sort of special operations, so they're sort of not really conducive. I'll look through them, probably have to do a few of them. Certainly interesting, but so this is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it's the Battle of Baghdad, and that's it. It's 7 major battles, and that's it for the whole of that war, which I was a bit surprised about. I might just not be reading the Wikipedia right, or might have missed out certain things that just, so I'm sure there are a few other scenarios. That's one of the point of doing the blog, so I can explore and drill down and figure out what's what. But anyway, so here we have the US forces fighting against the Iraqi forces of basically the Fedayeen Saddam, which are the sort of loyalists to the Saddam Hussein loyalists, and these are Syrian mercenaries of all things. I sort of plonked in enough units to sort of fill the outskirts of the city, but obviously these Syrian mercenaries are sort of weak spots. The key to this really are these landing zones, LZ Finch, Sparrow and Robin, and you land these Airmobile units. So it's the 502nd Infantry, 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion and 3rd Battalion, and so I don't know where they land, but 1st, 2nd, 3rd, there's a battalion at each one, so I split them up into companies, gave them 3 companies. And so you land those, but the timing is quite interesting really, because you get a lot of the this air power that come in for 2 turns from the first turn. So for the first 2 turns you just bombing things. You can sort of move these well, so you get turn 1. On turn 2 obviously these become active, so it's not sort of 2 turns, but you get the first turn, these are not going to get anywhere, especially not him. At the second turn 2 you get to land your units, and so really from turn 3, and they won't be able to do much once they've landed, and so from turn 3 you get to start doing things, but the air power is only available for 2 turns. You get a little bit more air power on turn 4, which is for another 2 turns. You get some Apache helicopters, but they don't arrive until turn 2. So it's sort of slightly staggered in that sense. So let's just play it. So first of all, really to sort of define how you're going to do things. Now I haven't really thought about it because I've just done it, but 3 battalions, so in theory I could put a line like that. I mean, they don't all have to necessarily go on the landing zone and land like that, or I could do it like that, or like that, or like that, but basically something like that. And the way it details the description is the mechanised units then sort of fill in the gaps, but they only get they could fill in naturally would be that, and then they all sort of move in. But I think if you sort of look at that again, you sort of think, well, we know these are the landing zones. We know we've got these units. What do we want to do? I mean, stub my toe while sitting in a chair. How impossible is that? Poor toe. Anyway, so we've got this air power. There's quite a lot of it, and so the thing I think to think about is what do we want to damage the most? And I think to some extent maybe taking out all this air defence, because then that will free up our helicopters if we can. But I don't think we will be able to do that. But we've got artillery as well. So I don't know. I'm just trying to sort of think. Well, what do we want to really damage? And we might not be able to damage a lot, but there's 3 units in there. There's some these Fayed Saddam units, and then there's 2 air defence units. And so we could try and pound those, but they're in dense urban in fortifications, so they're going to be quite difficult. Might be better off committing against 1 unit, but I'm not sure. I think I'd rather go against that lot. But I really can't decide really. I mean, we might be able to get quite stunning results against these ones. But so, I mean, there's lots of choices, and I really don't know what one to do. But if you sort of maybe think forward and think, well, okay, we're going to have some units, say, here. Let's just use this line. Well, what are they going to do? Well, to be quite honest, you might want to just try and pinch her there. Try and pinch her there. And then bring that down into there, so coming down onto that basically. So we might want to sort of try and pepper that up so that when they get there, it's pretty easy, and then they can fill that line out like that, and we can start moving that way, and then these units can then sort of plough in through this way. I mean, he can sort of come up here, and we've got this other line here that can come in like that. But committing that, doing a lot of damage there would be one thing, but we've got artillery, and they've only got 1 movement. They're not really supposed to move, but they've got plenty of range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, so they can pretty much hit anything. 2, 3, 4, 9, 10. You know, so we can hit anything in there. So now, again, I'm just sort of doing all the thinking in advance, because the thing that's the more interesting part of it. Obviously, we've got some sort of, you know, these roads are mined, we can go around them. It's not really going to be that difficult. It just means we can't shoot up and down the roads. But these are the tough units, these Fedarian, Sedan, whatever they're called. I think we shouldn't, I don't think these are really going to be a big problem. The only thing they do is create a little more volume, you know, for creating a front line. So they're probably quite likely to sort of try and retreat, and then maybe sort of consolidate in these hexes here, for example. You know, because once you get 2 or 3 of these stacked up, they're going to be worth 9 in dense, which is going to be, you know, 27. That's going to be pretty tough. So it could be worth just trying to sort of do as much damage to these and limit these as soon as possible. But there's quite a concentration there. So to be quite honest, I just don't know what would be the best. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the artillery down onto here. I'm going to spend the first turn concentrating on this air defence, because that will free up my helicopters, I think. That when you go back, it does that. Let's have a quick look at what we've got. These helicopters, yeah, they've got 30 turns, so they can be on for a lot of the game. They've got 4 attack, but the thing is, they're vulnerable to those air defence units, and so you know, I think that I'm going to go for that. And the first thing I'm going to do is use my artillery. That'll gauge, I think. I think I'd rather commit this against this before the air power. Well, we've got a little bit of damage. Yeah, well, that's okay. 1.5, 1.7, and the middle one hasn't got anything yet. So I feel a little happier that we can commit some air power in there now. .35. Why didn't he seem to get any damage? He seems to be going on the top one. I was unaware of that. I'll have to look into that. I thought the whole stack would get something. Well, he's definitely been taking the damage, so that's a pain. Okay, well that's that. I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. I don't think that's right. Or maybe it might be that the air defense units are not going to be damaged by air strikes. That could be sort of something that I've written in there. I don't know why I would write that. That sounds silly. But I'll have to look into that, which means I probably won't immediately, because I'm not in that sort of looking into things mood at the moment. So hopefully I'll be able to. I've got one of these magic boards. I might write it up on there. I don't know what to use the magic board for. That might be a good idea. Then I won't forget it. I mean, I'm going to actually do that. I've got a shopping list on there, but I don't think that's really much. Okay, so I've added it to my things to do list. So the Iraqi turn. Well, obviously they know there's an attack coming in, but what do? I mean, it's not as though they can do anything back. They don't even have any artillery in there. So I think sitting it out is going to be all they really want to do, and plus they can all recover in there, which will be useful. So that's that. That's the Iraqi turn. What an action-packed turn it was for them. Oh look, it's still turn 1. You see, I still got that sort of blippy thing on turn 1. It's just still turn 1 for some reason. Let me just put that on my to-do list as well, won't it? Okay, that's 2 things on my to-do list now. Fantastic. Okay, well, seems pretty pointless just firing on them if we're not going to damage them. 1.8, I mean they're in dense, they're in fortified, let's just go for these ones. .5. Oh no, I should have 2.6. Okay, that's a bit better. Put some air power onto that. 0.5. We were 3/4 strength due to their AA, which we were trying to take out. 1.8, so he's down to 5. He would have done a morale check. Okay. We didn't actually move these last time, which we could have. I want to put them there, there, and there to represent sort of that filling the gap type thing that they were used for. I'll move him up, I think, as well. Scared me for a minute. Why wasn't he moving? Okay, well he's only one movement. I was going to say we'll leave him there, but okay. We should have moved them last turn, actually. Okay, well the Iraqi still can't do anything, so they're going to sit there. And now we don't have any more air power. We've got these air units, which are going to be a pain now. I'll have to look into that, because we should really be able to try and take out their air defences first. And this is going to be, it's a bit of faffing around, because I'm going to put them in lines because you've got to go through, you've got to land them, and then say, yes, I want to commit the air insertion, and we're okay, and go back and do that lots of times. So that's the first battalion in. They take damage. They lost an Apache helicopter in the real thing. Depression 2, Depression 3, Depression 3, yep, they took a lot of damage. We really need to take that those air units out, those air defense units out. Should have used the air power on the second one. That's a lot of damage. It's because of these guys, look. Okay, he got through 3, 2 damage, 2 damage. So we're going to have to wait around now until they recover. Two damage. 3 damage. God, I mean, decimated coming in with this AA. There's only 2 units. I didn't realise it would be that extreme. I might have to balance that up a bit. How much did he get? 2, 3. There's only 1 unit that's got through without any damage. Three. So there's quite a bit of permanent damage in there. I don't want to commit my air power. I'm just going to start taking these things out. 0.3. Okay. Well, they're not going to do anything, and so we're going to use some more artillery. .5, 2.7. He's in place. He's in place. We're still going to sit there and recover. Yeah, they're recovering. The Iraqis are not going to do anything. Okay, we've got some air power in now, but let's get this artillery in there, see if we can clean that air defense out. Okay, well, he would have done a morale check. .1, 0.5. See, this one's just recovered so much. He's in place, he's in place, everyone's in place. They're recovering. Could move him, he's probably clear, but that's that. I'm not going to commit any of that. And do I want to go with my air power? How much have we got? Not a lot. I'm going to keep it. Okay, the Iraqis are not doing anything, they're just digging in now. waiting. Okay. 6. They should be checking. He should be starting to check from around now at least. 2.9, 2.9. That was a nice chunky one. Look at that. 7, 6, 3.2. Next turn might do it. And again, he's got only 2 movement. I'm not going to use that. So the Iraqis are still just sitting there, now well and truly entrenched. .6. Come on, morale. Well, it's keeping them keen, so to speak. Actually, so the Iraqis are again just sitting there because they don't really have much more that they can do. I was thinking, you know, they could sort of come out now. They're entrenched. They were dug in. Now they're all entrenched. You can sort of see by the more defined outline. I was thinking earlier, you know, there could be potential for them to come out, but you know, they can't. So we're sort of waiting around. But we're as recovered as we're going to be. Depression 0, so he's in good form. He's at 1, but he's not going to get better than that because he went up to 3. And same there. So we've got 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. So we took some damage coming in. We've managed to sort of recover that. And now this is where the interesting thing happens. I mean, I think we might as well just get to it, but we can start moving forward now and sort of considering we could actually start the ground attack. It'd be really nice if we can actually sort of take these units out. Well, it's all going in the right direction. 7, 7, 5. This one could be the lucky roll. 3 of them routing. Oh, none of them routing. That's not the lucky roll. So, anyway. Let's move a little closer, at the very least. As close as I want to get. How much movement? So they can pretty much move 1 a turn. Okay. Iraqis are still holding their ground. Artillery fire. They can't hold on forever. Ha ha! Number 1's gone. 8.4, he'll go next. This could be the one. Oh no. Okay. So the Iraqis are not going to do anything again. Let's get rid of these air units, air defense units. Press the button. Effect. I'm wondering actually whether or not for some reason they're not doing a morale check, because sometimes it sort of does that. Not so much does that, but I'll have a look in a minute. If I get suspicious that he's just not doing a morale check, because it sort of says if it's certain units, I think you've got to specify. It goes through a loop and it says, you know, if infantry, or if this, or if that, or then check morale. It might be doing that, but I don't think it should be doing it. But if it goes on, it's like, you know, how long do you sit at a red traffic light until you get a bit suspicious that it's not working? Okay, we're already there, but I'm not going to commit until I've got rid of that air defence. I've always liked not so much like games, but I always think it makes sense to sort of just use your artillery. I mean, we could just sit here doing artillery for everything, but the Iraqis might get a bit suspicious and then they will come out and do an attack. But they don't have any armour. So sometimes they have a bit of armour or something, and something they can come out and fight with. 12.9. I'm getting a bit suspicious now. Oh god, I was just thinking, if it didn't do it this time, then I would be having to get under the hood, and that's just such a pain. Come on, let's get that other one. 1.1, 10.9. No, let's reload. The thing is, we still get AA from the units. The helicopters are not immune to it. They're not going to do anything, but they could sort of come out. They could sort of pound out. But the thing is, even against this unit, they're entrenched. They've still not got the numbers. They're just hoping that, you know, we could just sit there forever with the artillery, and in theory, you should have some sort of limit on the artillery, because, you know. But the thing is, this is what the coalition did pretty much anyway. You know, it's not inaccurate. They just pounded them. The only thing we've not got here is more air power. I think maybe I should go back. I did actually double the air power up. I maybe should add even more air power, and definitely have a look into why it was not hitting the other units, because we should be able to go in there in the first turn and wipe out the air defence units, and if you don't do it, then you suffer, like we're sort of doing now. Okay, we've got him. Okay, that changes things slightly. So let's open this this game up. I didn't have to wait. You know, I could have you know, gone a little earlier, and I just felt that I wanted to do that. No effect. He's so used to firing in the other direction, he didn't know how to fire in this direction. But now we've got helicopters, so let's use some helicopters in there. Let's use that air power. They shouldn't be in there. Let's see what these helicopters do. No effect. Press the button. 0.8. 1.8. Okay. The thing is, we're going to lose all our movement if we go into these hexes. Let's just... I'm not sure how this really works, but if we do an attrition first, it gives us an odds factor. I'm pretty sure that that is... See, that would have been a 1-to-1. That would have been pretty bad. He's in a... No, I don't want to go into the minefield. Definitely not. Let's see what our odds are here. 2 to 1. So that's slightly better, especially when I get all the others in there and get that hex as well. So the ground battle has now started. Let's see, they've got some options here. They could hold their ground, which I think we're going to do, or they could fall back there and fall back here. I just think that we might as well hold on, and once they've fallen back and been pushed out of their defences, then we can use their mobility to put them somewhere else. Okay, and we've got 2 points of attack now, so let's support this one. No effect. Okay, that's good. 2.4 taking up to 3.2. But now we've got everything. Well, what's it going to be anyway? So they're 3, they're going to be doubled to 6, doubled to about 12, 10, 25. So we're going to be about 2 to 1. Plus their depressions and fatigues, possibly a 3 to 1, maybe a 4 to 1, but 3 or 4 to 1, I think. 4 to 1 DR. Well, nothing's going to have any movement left, is it? Oh, he might be able to get in. Yep, and he might be able to because he's mobile, but these ones won't. However, he's gone into there, hasn't he? Okay, so he's going to be worth 3, he's going to be worth 15, so it's going to be 5 to 1, possibly a 6 to 1, plus the mechanised units, we might add that up, possibly 6 or 7 to 1 maybe, I don't know, let's give it a go. Oh, 4 to 1, and the DE, it wasn't as high as I thought it would be. What? He was at 4, I thought he was at 3, didn't I, so yeah, so he was actually at 4. Yeah, because he's doubled and then doubled. So, yeah, so that makes sense. Plus, I've got some depressions, haven't I, somewhere? Oh no, 15. Yeah, so that makes sort of sense. I've got a good die roll though. This is what I was sort of thinking right from the start. You know, once it starts to crumble, it's really going to go because there's just so much. Well, sorry, I don't know what I was talking about there. These things are so weak, you know, they're not really worth much. And I think that, you know, now that we've got in there, I mean, they've got one unit here that they can sort of, you know, he's free to move now, but he's at 5.2 depression. So he's probably going to want to move back. Oh, I didn't do this one here. Oh well. That's a command error. So the Iraqis, they are going to move these ones back. Isn't there any more movement? But that's it. Okay, so let's commit some artillery over here. Point 7. 2. Where should we put the air power? It's going to be the last one of this. It's not really worth using it really. 0.9. Well, let's get some helicopters on it as well. I always do them one at a time just because it seems to be better on the numbers. You get more chances of getting something as opposed to a big one that you could gamble it all on. You don't seem to get the big numbers, you just far higher chance of just getting nothing. So we've used all of that. Okay. 4-1 DR. Well, can we take it? Yep. Okay. So, we're making ground. We'll use the artillery. So he's going to be worth about 4, isn't he? So 5, 10. So that'll be about 5-1 with the surround. Six to 1 possibly. Yep, 6-1 and a DE. So we're making quite good in-ground into that. They're all moved up, aren't they? So can we do something against this? Some attrition maybe. I mean, that's going to be almost worth an attack. I think I'm going to go for it. It might be only about 3-1, but we've got this here, so he'll be upping himself. 4-1 DE, yep. And let's see whether we've got any spare units there. No. Okay. He's not doing anything yet, is he? Okay. Well, it's looking quite interesting. I mean, the Iraqis just don't have any cards to play, other than, I think, definitely moving into the centre there. Possibly he's fallen back as well. Well, there you go, they're starting to retreat. And they're going to do their first counter-offensive, even though it's just a small piece of attrition. And they were unsuccessful. So we did some damage on the inbound air units, which is historically accurate, because they lost a helicopter, and we did a bit more than that, but that's because we didn't do so well on the air defence. We paid a bit more attention to that. We've done really well, but you know, the ground war is, you know, just as it was in history, pretty straightforward. You still got to do it. Okay. This is going to be overkill. I wonder what we can do. So he's not depressed. He's 3.86, but what we've got in here, this. Well, let's hammer these. Why is that not doing anything? Reload. Well, got there eventually. No, it wasn't. Something a bit odd about that. 2.8. So it's 9.6. It would be nice to have got a route on that. I think we're going to go for it. Even with just 2 units, I'm feeling a bit lucky. Seems to be slowing down now. 6-1 DE. Well, I'm going to be able to rip through all of this. Let's just commit everything in there. DE, yeah. I know I didn't need it all, but I think I want to go one step at a time. Send the Apache helicopters in there. I think I've got a slow connection. See if I leave it for a second, see whether it actually processes that. It's just slowing down for some reason. You can't see it, but it's sort of doing that reloading thing. I reloaded it and it's reloading and it's just sitting there. So probably come up with page cannot be connected now. Yep. How predictable was that? Oh, look at that. Isn't that amazing? How is that? Okay, you back in the land of the living, are you? Yep, looks like it. Okay. Ah, look at that. Celebratory helicopter attack. The server comes back. Oh, look at that. They're both out of it. And we can move in. I wasn't expecting it to be that easy. Okay, well, we do the other helicopter attack here. I think the Iraqis might surrender now. Okay, end turn 15. Yep, end turn. It's speeding up now. The server probably just crashed and restarted, and that happens. It's a web-based game, so there's always that risk. But generally speaking, if you watched all my hundreds of videos that I've got now, it's a pretty rare event, but it does happen. I mean, you've got to remember, every time you move anything, you're connecting with the server. There's no JavaScript on this, in the sense that it's not a client-based process. It's a server-based process, which means you've got to connect every time you move anything, it connects to the server, and if you lose your connection, you lose the game. But it's a bit like lag, I think, in these first-person shooters. You know, it's inevitable. But there you go. The Iraqis are going to have one little last attempt at doing some attrition, because they're not so stupid that they're going to do a full 1 to 4. Good job they didn't try a last desperate dash. And now they're going to surrender, because it's pointless. And it was interesting that the helicopter went in there and just did that damage right at the last moment. Yeah, I mean, well, they can try and escape and run away, but they've surrendered. So that's it. 46 minutes. Interesting game. I mean, it's sort of inevitable, but I think the way that you need to take these games on board is to set yourself your own priorities. You know, for example, saying I want to do it with no casualties or less than a certain number of casualties, and if you go through that, I did it perfectly without any casualties. Basically, the only casualties that were taken were probably on some of these units. There's Depression 1, because he came down on LZ Sparrow and got a 3, so we had 2 3s there, so there'd be 2 casualties, 1 down here, and I think these were all 2s. He's got 1. He's got 1. So we've taken quite a bit of quite a few casualties, but they did lose a helicopter with 7 people on it, and then 7 people died and several others were injured. So that's sort of par for the course, really. You know, it doesn't, right? It does actually say, but I've not got the thing bookmarked anymore. It does say how many people were lost in total, but it was fairly casualty free. But you could sort of say that. And now the thing to bear in mind there is I spent a lot of time waiting until I got not so much the infantry unit in the capital hex, you know, the objective hex. I just kept using the artillery until I got those air defense units, and that allowed my helicopters to not be shot down in their attack, you know, and lose their offensive capability. And that paid, you know, dividends at the end there, because it was that helicopter that took out these 2 units. I mean, I wasn't really expecting that. We had a hard time trying to force other units to rout, and then we had a bit of luck. I mean, it wasn't exceptional luck, but it was sort of nice to get them, you know, with 1 helicopter attack, get those two routes in. But that's sort of, you know, I think bear that in mind in the strategy I played, because I think if you were to normally play it, I think a player without having the sort of approach that I took, not that it was a special approach, might be more inclined to just start moving the units a lot sooner. I just didn't move them. You know, they're all entrenching and all just waiting for the artillery. And it's interesting because you could just sit there firing artillery at everything, and then you'd have to sort of reappraise what the Iraqis did, because they're probably not going to just sit there. But often, you know, I think there's other things, there's secret ingredients as to why, not so much ingredients, but secrets to why you just don't sit there just bombing. Because you probably run out of ammunition, it's expensive. I mean, there comes a thing where, you know, there's probably a crunch point in the economics of it, where it's cheaper to commit ground troops than it is to continue with artillery and airstrikes. But there's also, you know, the amount of damage they do to a town. I'm pretty sure that they actually think about that. I think especially with these modern surgical strikes, I mean, I don't think they're saying, well, we don't want to damage this building too much, but I think, you know, any sort of collateral damage is probably accounted for and tried to be avoided. So you've got to sort of, you know, bear that in mind. What would be real? What would be realistic? And I think we did it sort of fairly well. I mean, we kept pounding, you know, that hex until we got the air defense units. Then we went in. It wasn't as easy as it might have thought, I mean, we only had a sort of 1-to-1 odds. Our first few rounds were attrition, but then when we could focus our artillery, we still got quite a lot of it. It doesn't sound like a lot, it's just 2, but when they've got nothing, it is. Maybe I could give the artillery some rockets, or something, but it doesn't say they had any, and I haven't given them any, so that's just how it is. But, obviously, all these scenarios are open for adjustment later on. But, it wasn't, but once they started to fall back, I mean, the 3s were pretty tough, but the 1s would sort of, the Syrian mercenaries, they're just hardly worth their presence. They just, you just have to fight for those hexes. So I'm pretty sure that you could do a worse job than I did in that. But again, I think, in this, you're going to win, but it's sort of like, well, how soon can you win? For example, if it was 16 turns, you might say, well, that's too long. You might say you've got to do it in 8 turns. But I don't like it when you've got to do it by a certain number of turns. But you might say, well, we want to do it only using, say, you might want to limit the amount of artillery you use. You might want to self-impose a limit. There's no limits in there. There's no sort of outer supply markers or anything like that. But you might want to imply that, or you might want to say, well, we can't fire for more than 5 things in a row, and then so we can't. You've got to do something else. Or you could say, well, I can only commit, say, 6 major ground attacks and see what I can do with that. I don't know what I'm saying. You just make your own rules up to sort of try and make it a challenge, and not so much more realistic, but more realistic in the sense that it's just because otherwise you're just going to win without setting some sort of parameters that you feel represent a more accurate reality, or a closer approximation to a more accurate simulation, so to speak. According to your own objectives and requirements. But yeah, so I think that's a pretty good outcome, really, though. I'm still a bit unsure as to whether or not I balanced it out appropriately, because the Iraqis really had no chance. I could put in some insurgents in there, just one little set of insurgents there, which would possibly cause a little bit of havoc, because some of these units are defense of 4 here. I mean, they're all 4, 4, 4, 4. So we could probably, if we had some insurgents in there, do some sneak attacks coming out, and that would be a pain. But I didn't read that in the Wikipedia, so I don't like to just balance things up just because it makes it more challenging or harder to win. I already thought that I'd put too many units in. It doesn't really specify how many Iraqis there were. It specifies how many they lost, but not how many were present in the battle, etc., etc. So I'm pretty happy with actually how that balances out. I'm not going to make any changes. So there you go. And the next one will be the Battle for Baghdad, which is going to be massive. I couldn't believe it when I got there. It didn't seem. I thought there'd be a lot more to go. I thought it'd be epic, But there you go. We're almost there. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to play it and all the other ones, then sign up and give it a whirl, so to speak. I'll speak to you later. Cheers, mate.